and then we just scoop Bing Bing right up. So I'm working on a really neat project today. This is something I started doing a while back when I was about 16 and I kept my first saltwater tank. So what happened was, back in those days, everybody thought you had to cycle your tank with a fish in it. So what people would do is, when they would set up their tank, they would go to the store and they would go buy the cheapest fish you could, because it might not survive the cycling process. And in those days, the cheapest fish out there were damsel fish. So you would set your tank up, you'd put your live rock in it, and then you'd go buy a damsel fish, and you would let the damsel fish cycle the tank. Well, as most of you know, damselfish are just an incredibly aggressive little guys. So after your tank cycled, you always wanted to take it out, but they're also really fast. So I was trying to figure out back then how I could take this damselfish out without taking all of my live rock out. And what I figured out how to do was kind of the basis for what I'm going to show you how to do today. It's how to teach a fish to swim into a net. And on a quick side note, you don't need to use a fish to cycle tanks anymore. That was a long time ago. Now we've learned you can just put a piece of shrimp in a tank. You can buy bacteria in a bottle. There are so many better ways to cycle a tank than by putting a fish in there. Putting a fish in a tank to cycle it is probably the worst way to do it, because it's actually really hard on the fish, and a lot of times it can kill them. So first thing you're going to do is bend your net into a usable shape. And when I put this in the tank, you're going to see exactly why I did this. So I bent it into the shape so that when I put it in the tank, I put it right here. And then I can just clip it to the side of the glass. Okay, so I've got it clipped to the side of the glass. You know, nothing fancy, just a little clamp. So when I was doing this the first time years ago when I was 16, the first thing I learned was I needed to just leave the net in the tank for a long time. Just leave it in there for a couple of days, because it lets the fish get used to it, especially the territorial fish. They start to think of it as part of their territory. So much of fish training or fish conditioning kind of just comes back to tricking the fish. It's just fish psychology. So I'm going to leave this net in here for a couple of days, and then I'm going to start feeding him near the net, so that he begins to associate the net with food, just like we did with the training rod. So what I do is I use the training rod to put the food right where I want it, and I want to put it right over the net and let Bing Bing see it. Oh, he's trying to figure it out. He's trying to swim the wrong way, and he's coming around. Oh, right here, Bing Bing. And this is the first time I've tried this. So what I want to do is I want to feed him right over the net, so that he starts to associate the net with food. So he can associate that this is a feeding spot. So that when he learns to see the net, what will happen is he'll actually, one, he'll not be scared of it, and two, he'll start to approach it. So I'm just going to leave the net in there. I've finished feeding him. And I'm leaving it in there so that he begins to identify the net, not necessarily as an intruder, but as part of his territory. It's so that he gets used to it. Once he sees it as his, he won't be scared of it anymore. Okay, so I have been working with Bing Bing for a few days, feeding him over the net. And now Shelly's going to help me, and we're going to pull him out of the tank. So Shelly, can you put the food in on top of the net? And then we just scoop Bing Bing right up. You see that? You know, he's not panicked, not freaking out, because this net is just part of his environment. It's nothing strange. It's nothing scary. It's not a predator. He doesn't know why it moved, but yeah, he's not panicking at all. This is a great way to take out a troublesome fish. I'm not going to take him out of the water right now because I don't need to, but I will use this method again later when I add some new fish to the tank and I need to diffuse aggression. Alright, well, I'm going to put Bing Bing back in, and I can just let him swim right out of the net. Easy as that. Well, that was a fun project. If you want to see more neat and interesting tricks and tips that use a fish's behavior or fish training to make aquarium maintenance and aquarium care easier, be sure to like and subscribe. I put out videos like this every week. So thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Bye.